Who and what are you that comes here to this accursed place? There is nothing for you here, stranger. Your journey was for naught. Leave and never return. I cannot even tell you my name, broken being that I am. The Maelstrom elementals that prowl this isle have taken it from me. You will restore my name? It cannot be done. The Maelstrom elementals hoard the fulminating crystals I need to heal my mind. Who are you that comes to this accursed place? There is nothing for you here. Your journey was for naught. Leave and never return.
The voices of chaos.
Who and what are you that comes here to this accursed place? Wait, do I remember you? What is it that you hold in your hands? Fulminating crystals? With these fulminating crystals, fragments of my life return. I am Edric, Exalted Blade. This place was once the Alcazar of Radiant Judgment, a shrine to the astral studies of the stars. Her sister shrine blazed in the heavens above, until the stars fell out of the sky. My memory is but newborn. To know more, hear the tragedies of the phantoms in the ruined hall. But be warned, their anger burns cold.
Fight on and fly on to the last drop of blood, to the last beat of the heart. Our story? Our tale is one of fire and doom. A delegation came from the far shores of Chrysalis, from the hive of the Arachna. They welcomed the spider magi kindly, for the Alcazar of Radiant Judgment was open to all, even to their strange young visitor. They said she was a spellbinder, a wizard from the Spiral, She was powerful but graceless and could not handle the forces. She studied in the Star Alcazar, but it went poorly. She could not master the delicacies of star magic and quit in a furor. In her wrath, she blamed all but herself. She pulled the stars out of the sky, and we were consumed in a cataclysm of starfire.
They told you of the cataclysm? Yes, I remember now. The day the sky burned and everything was swallowed by shadow. The memories are flooding back. The Shrine's guardian, Amelia Stardust, fell from the sky that day. I've oft heard her spirit's tragic cries. Spellbinder, search the ruined hall of the Zodiac for Amelia's spirit and free her.
Greetings, trespasser. The Shadow Queen ruled this place off limits to all beings over 100 years ago. She sent us here to make sure that any who were lucky enough to survive the Maelstrom would die a painful death. We've been here a long while and have a lot of anger to work out. Get over here! As if that matters.
Thank you, Spellbinder. I've been trapped in a nightmare for far too long. Come, let us look upon the sky. Oh, by the spiral, the sky is so empty. My heart shatters like glass to see the Alcazar of Radiant Judgment reduced to ruin. This was all the work of that wizard, Morganthe? Is it true that she is the Shadow Queen that rules over Chrysalis? Wait, it was you that restored the Eclipse Tower and reclaimed it from the Umbra Legion. That gives me a twinkling of a plan. We must visit the Nova Towers to see what remains. But to do that, we need some ion charges from the Maelstrom Elementals.
I feel positively negative.
Well done! We can use these ion charges to reactivate the pedestals that once linked the Central Hall with the Nova Towers. There are 4 towers, each pledged to one aspect of the Celestial Zodiac. Cross over to the Nova Tower of the Celestial Crab. Defeat whatever monsters have taken over the tower, and search for any sign of the Celestial Crab. If you find him, tell the Great Power that we need pure star stuff.
cursed place, Shadow Blights. The celestial crab is ours. shall rise again.
Greeting, wizard. I have been reduced by the shadow for an age. I owe you a great debt. You wish for pure star stuff? The heavens are still scarred by the shadow and remain starless. I retrieved this extinguished star stuff from the bottom of the deep. This is what I can give you. I hope it will help.
The chunk of star stuff the celestial crab gives you is heavy, cold, and inert. You hope Amelia has a plan.
You found the celestial crab held by deep spawn? The horror. It is a wonder that you were able to rescue him. Let me see what he gave you. I see. Cold, heavy, wet, inert. It will do. The second Nova Tower you must visit is pledged to the Celestial Heart. As before, I do not know what you will find. With luck, you will find the Celestial Heart as you did his brother, Crab. If so, ask him to bless the star stuff.
I am charged to defend the Alcazar against all threats. You have betrayed our hospitality, Arachna. Taste my steel.
I am battered and beaten, but my head clears. I remember my name now. Ericos who remembers! You are here on behalf of Amelia Stardust? Yes, I will aid you. The Celestial Heart is reduced by downdraft elementals. If you defeat them, you may be able to rescue the Heart's essence.
A wizard. I have lost count of the seasons. Thank you for freeing me. You and Amelia Stardust asked me to bless this star stuff? Yes, it is frozen and lifeless. That will not do. I wish you well on this endeavor.
You carefully wrap the now blazing chunk of heavy star stuff in your backpack. You hope it doesn't burn a hole right through.
You did it! I'm thrilled beyond words, Spellbinder! The third tower is home to the Celestial Serpent, a more difficult aspect to work with. I hope she will look kindly on you. Be safe looking for her, Spellbinder. If and when you find her, ask for her blessing on the rekindled star stuff.
Stealth equals death! Courage is the mastery of fear. Resistance to fear, not the absence of fear. Do not fear the Celestial Serpent.
The dream was dark and cold. Who brings me into this light? A wizard? Here? Why? I see. Thank you and Amelia Stardust for reviving me. I will assist you. Place the star stuff before my fangs.
The great celestial serpent opens her mouth wide to show a pair of wicked fangs. She breathes out a cloud of vapors that remind you of peat, smoke, and iodine.
May the stars ever light your way in the dark places.
You have revitalized 3 of our great celestial aspects. Well done, Spellbinder! The last Nova Tower is devoted to the Celestial Phoenix. Be careful, Spellbinder, for I sense a dark shadow in that place. Find the Celestial Phoenix and convince her to return with you here.
At the edge of the room, you see several mantis spirits flickering in and out. They seem greatly agitated.
I sense a light in your heart. Is this so? We would help you then, Lightbringer, but we are the barest of memories. We came here to find a weapon to use against the Shadow Queen, but her minion, Papa Jacobo, consumed us. The door to the upper chamber is locked, but the key is hidden in this room. Take it and blast Papa Jacobo to a memory.
Hungry, feeding on chaos and living in shadow. Where do I begin? I'll cut your life into pieces. never realized I was spread too thin. Celestial Phoenix, she's long destroyed. All that is left is this petrified egg.
You find the egg that Papa Jacobo mentioned. It certainly seems petrified. There's no other signs of a living phoenix. You hope Amelia Stardust can use this egg somehow.
The Celestial Phoenix was gone? Well, that is dire news. But let me see this egg you speak of. I think, if I'm right, all is far from lost. Place the rekindled star stuff there, at the center point. Now lay the egg in the central hollow with the star stuff, and let us see how well the spiral remembers.
The egg reveals a being of nearly pure starlight and starfire. The celestial phoenix is magnificent. She screams at the dark sky and spreads her wings. The star stuff you've restored launches itself up into the heavens. As the star stuff soars up and up, you hear a faint melody, a tintinnabulation of the heavens growing louder and louder.
Radiance is reborn!
By the spiral, wizard! Look at what you've done! A castle in the stars! I could not be prouder of you, kind wizard. You've managed to restore another degree of light to this land. Before you travel to the heart of Morganthe's power, you must explore the celestial castle, Radiance Reborn. Learn what you can to arm yourself for the war with shadow that lies ahead of you. Morganthe's fury grows with each step you take. The Celestial Phoenix will take you up to the Star Castle, where Amelia Stardust is waiting for you. Be safe, wizard.